It's 6 o'clock. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Texarkana, Arkansas Board of Directors to order. At this time, we'll have the roll call.
Director Hart,
Here.
Director Roberts,
Here.
Director Harris,
Here.
Director Hollabush,
Here.
Director Brewer,
Here.
Director Minor, here, Mayor Brown.
Here. So at this time, Director Harris would introduce his guest that will be leading us in the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, as y'all know, I normally have a guest person to come and do the prayer, and this time I'm having Terry Williams. He's the minister of Haney Creek Baptist Church, and he's also a classmate of mine, which I'm going to go ahead and throw this in. He's one of the 7 class members I have that either is a minister or evangelist.
Okay. Welcome.
Good evening.
Let us bow our heads. Dear wise and loving Father, first let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Therefore, my Father, I pray for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular, for this assembled council. Lord, I'm asking that you would graciously grant them wisdom to govern amidst the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of welfare and true needs of our people. Dear Master, grant a keen thirst for justice and righteousness, confidence in what is good and fitting. Lord, I'm asking you to grant this council the ability to work together in harmony, even when there is honest disagreement. And Lord, grant these officials personal peace in their lives and joy in their tasks. Finally, Lord, I pray for the agenda set before them today. Please give an assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our beloved city of Texarkana, Arkansas. It is my most, in the holy name of Jesus Christ, I pray. Amen.
Amen.
Now, my brothers and sisters, if you join me as protocol would allow in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Just a couple of housekeeping items. If you have your cell phone with you, we would appreciate if you would silence it. If you wish to address the board tonight during citizens communication time, you're welcome to do so. If you would fill out one of the citizens communication cards on the ledge, we would appreciate it. Get that to our city clerk. I looked over here because now they're over there, but I'll get used to y'all being up. George, how's it like being down there?
Got some company now, Mayor. Nice.
So at this time, we're going to move right on into citizens communication time. Is there anyone here tonight that wishes to address the board during citizens communication time? Hearing none, seeing none. I would like to take this opportunity real quick to, we had a big event. We had several events in our city over the weekend. We had an event that I've been involved with for the past 8 years. We had our college football bowl game in town this past weekend. We were very pleased with our turnout. We had a lot of people in hotel rooms. We had a lot of people in restaurants. Anybody that knows anything about a college football team, one of the things that those guys really worry about when we started that game was eating and they ate plenty here in town, so there was a lot of restaurants and stuff that benefited from them being in town. But one of the things that we could not do is not do that game without the assistance of our Public Works Department in helping us with getting some things cleaned up for sure, but barricades and that type of stuff. But above all, too, our police department. And I don't see her out here, but Chief Bennett and Les Munn heads up our security department for the police department, did an outstanding job as they have every year. And on behalf of the Bowl Committee, we really appreciate the city's effort. Not only did we benefit our city economically over the weekend, we also had a great benefactor in the United Way of Greater Texarkana that we're going to be able to make a donation to here in the next few weeks for that. So I want to take an opportunity, Jay, to let you know Chief Bennett and Les Munn and the rest of those staff. It takes a big-time effort to get those buses around town, and our police department did an outstanding job of taking care of that, and I appreciate that. Is there anyone else wishes to address the board? If not, we'll move right into our presentations. We only have one presentation of a service award tonight, and that is an employee of the Texarkana, Arkansas Police Department that's not present, and that's Telvin Wilson. He'll be recognized and has a certificate for 5 years of service to the Texarkana, Arkansas Police Department. So at this time, we'll move into our consent agenda. The first item is item number 2, which will be approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on November the 15th. Number 3 is to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into a construction contract with R&W Electric for the Interstate 30 median lights electrical replacement. And item number 4, to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to purchase one Freightliner Vacon dual-engine truck for the water department. What would be the board's desire on the consent agenda?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And the consent agenda passes. So we'll move right along into our regular agenda, which is item number 5, which would be to adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to amend the current residential garbage and trash hauler contracts with Edmondson Trash Service and Richardson Waste. Public Works Director Tyler Richards.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. We received a request from our residential waste haulers back a few months ago for a $2 rate increase. We took that to our solid waste committee back on November 4th. And we came out of that meeting with a recommendation to move forward with the $2 rate increase. They have not had an increase since 2018. They did submit financials with this request, and that was reviewed by our finance director. And they did determine that they're virtually at that break-even point. They're not really making anything there. But also included with this increase, we're going to propose an annual CPI increase. So that contract, for the remaining of their contract, so that contract would automatically increase by that national CPI rate. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions for Tyler? Director Harris.
I got one. The last time this was done, if I'm not mistaken, back in 2018, right?
Correct.
And we also had Western Waste was at the time, if I'm not mistaken, right? Okay, and they backed out based on the point, as from my understanding, basically what's being implemented now. Is that true or not true? Or?
I'm sorry, say that
They
again.
basically backed out because based on the rate increase, they asked and they said they could not afford to continue to do business and on the Arkansas side based on the increase. And they also had requested a automatic CPI increase. Basically, what that basically means that increase would automatic increase without coming before the governing body, if I understand that right. And that's the point I'm really just trying to make, that Western Waste act for the same thing as to what's going on now, and that's the reason why they left, because they didn't get basically what's before this board now. And I just know that, and so why I'm bringing up Western Waste, because of the financial impact I see what they have in the city as a whole, even though they're not picking up trash anymore. But I know there is a probably million-dollar company worldwide, and their footprint is worldwide, and that's the only point I'm just trying to bring out.
Yeah, I wasn't here at that time, but that is my understanding, that increase wasn't sufficient for them, which is why they're back out, yes.
So Tyler, with the CPI, the auto increase, will that be yearly,
Yes,
every
that-
3
yes,
years?
That's annually, and that's capped at 3%. I apologize for.
3%?
It's capped at 3%, yeah. So if it goes over that 3%, they're only gonna get the 3% increase.
And that won't kick in until their current contract expires?
Now, that will be amended to this current contract, and their current contract expires, September 30th, 2023.
So they get this $2 and another 3% in January?
No. The CPI won't kick in until January 2023. So they'll get this $2 increase will go into effect January 1, 2022. And then the CPI will be considered starting.
At the expiration of that old contract?
Correct.
Gotcha.
September.
Well, it will, they can get the CPI increase for the year 2023. Their current contract doesn't expire until September of that year. So they would be able to get the CPI increase, beginning January 2023.
Yeah, I mean, my only drawback is that for the last couple of years that I've been mayor, I did ask, I have been on solid waste to review financials. They were not presented. They were presented this year to Finance Department and not the Solid Waste Committee, which to me, I'm making a decision on the full faith of our Finance Department, which is fine with me, but to be transparent, we do have a solid waste committee in place, and I feel like that in the future, those financials should be disclosed to at least that committee for review. And I'll support this increase here, but I'll be reserved to support future increases without being transparent. As a hauler for the city, that should be recommended in their contract or something to disclose financials. That's just people that do business with the city, that's how they all do it. And I would like to see that happen going forward. I do support this increase tonight, but I'll be hesitant to support them in the future if I'm still the mayor or if I'm on the Solid Waste Committee, to at least have those financials reviewed by that. Most of those things that we deal with in the city are not disclosed to the public, but I would like to know that for myself in making that decision that affects every resident in this town to have another $2 added to their bill.
I agree.
Is there any other discussion?
No, I totally agree.
Any other discussion? Okay, this is a resolution. We'll have the city attorney read the resolution.
Whereas one or more current contractors currently under contract with the city to provide residential waste removal and hauling services have requested service rate increases, and whereas the current contracts with each of the hauling contractors are set to expire September 2023 unless terminated sooner pursuant to the terms thereof, and whereas upon consideration by the Solid Waste Committee is recommended that, one, commencing January 1, 2022, all current residential waste collection and removal rate paid to hauling contractors will be increased as follows by an additional $2 per residential unit. Number two, with or without request by any hauling contractor commencing January 1, 2023 for each such hauling contract existing and in effect as of the date of passage of this resolution and remaining in effect as of January 1, 2023, the residential rate paid to the hauling contractor thereafter and thereunder be increased by a percentage equal to the lesser of 3% or the percentage change in the Consumer Price Index statistics published by the United States Bureau of Labor using the index entitled Consumer Price Index. All major group figures for urban consumers, South Region 82 to 84 equals 100 or nearest comparable data on changes in the cost of living if such index is no longer published, with the change under this option 2 being determined by comparison of the identified CPI figure for January 1, 2022 with that of 23, provided that in no event shall the increase contemplated by option number 2 immediately above have any effect or force until allocation or appropriation of funds by the Board of Directors in an amount sufficient and adequate to reasonably pay the estimated expenses of such 2023 increase through the end of the then existing term of such hauling contract, either by approval of the FY 2023 budget or by separate appropriation, whereas the city manager and staff recommend approval. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the City of Texarkana, Arkansas, that the solid waste residential rate paid to residential hauling contractors is set forth above, effective January 1, 2022, is approved, and further that the mechanism and formula for further adjustment on January 1, 2023, described above for any hauling contractor so qualifying for such increase pursuant to the terms described above is approved, passed and approved the 7th day of December 2021.
So the city attorney's read the resolution. What would be the desire of the board to adopt?
Motion to adopt the resolution.
Second. So a motion and a second to adopt. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
No.
Hollibush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes. And the resolution passes. So moving right along to regular agenda item number 6 would be to adopt an ordinance accepting the annexation of certain territory to the city of Texarkana, Arkansas, approving the schedule of services to be extended to the said area, assigning such to the wards and zoning districts and for other purposes. City Planner, Ms. Mary Beck.
Good evening,
Ms.
Mayor, Directors. This evening, we're going to be looking at an annexation request, and these are very rare because the city has determined that the annexations are only of a benefit if they're correcting something in such as a property that's half in and half out of the city, or filling in a gap between city limits. On Rondo Road, there's a total of probably about 2 miles spread out in different sections that, on the east side, that are in the county. And this is a small step in kind of evening up those sides. As a petition comes to a petitioner approaches the city and asks them about annexation, we just consider that for a recommendation for zoning if it falls in one of those 2 categories. So it's not an increase on city services as far as response time and, demanding more expense to the city. So here we have approximately 2 acres, and it's, of course, there's no zoning on the other sides of it since the county does not have zoning. And it's across the street adjacent to the R1 overlay zone, which allows manufactured homes. So this property was reviewed by the Planning Commission for the zoning, and looking at, there's a single-family home on it. It's not showing here, but on the east, there's a single-family home, and to the west, there's a single-family home, and it's vacant to the north and south. There's the water, city water runs down Rondo Road. This is South Rondo Road. And the fire hydrant is off the map, but it's to the south about 475 feet. Rondo Road is an arterial road, which is a classification by the MPO when a road connects 2 state highways. So this falls in that category. And usually arterial roads are roads that over time will develop further in scope of service to an area and transportation. So the property is served by a approved septic tank system, and Mr. Boots Thomas, he moved to recommend the R1 zoning, and that was seconded by Ms. Bertha Dunn. And a 4-0 vote with no opposition was held. There were 3 absences at the Planning Commission. The meeting was held on November 9th. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions of Ms. Beck? Director Harris?
I got one, maybe also the city attorney making those. I know it's a state law that states that, if any property is annexed, that if it doesn't have service within 3 years, and I didn't hear you mention whether it has sewage service or not, and then if it don't get the service within the 3 years, it automatic, well, I ain't gonna say it automatic become an annexed, but how that would affect this?
I'm not an expert on the state statutes with the ordinances, but I believe they demand within 3 years, matching the other services provided for city residents. And there's a lot of areas in the city that do not have city sewer, but the ordinance does provide for police, fire, water, and I think trash collection may be in there, but, so it's been examined closely by our city attorney, and I think it falls into that category because we don't have sewer everywhere in the city.
But I would ask the attorney
Yeah.
to chime in, and
Directors?
based on the state law, that if places annexed, if I'm right or wrong about the state law,
It's my memory, it's been some time since I've looked at it, but the state law contemplates upon annexations, the municipality tells the area what kind of sewers they're going, what kind of services will be provided within a certain period. And if it doesn't do that, then the area has the option to unannex, but that may not be the right term. This one, as Ms. Beck points out, it says exactly what services are being provided. It doesn't mention sewer because I don't think there are any plans at present that I'm aware of anyway to carry sewer out there. There may be, but I'm not part of it.
so you're trying to say if it's based on whether, if someone requested, whether the city, did the
Well, I think it's what,
initiate the annexation, or is based on if this person annexed?
my memory is what's based on what the city represents to the area when it annexes. And so in this case, the city hasn't represented to the areas, can't provide anything aside from fire and police protection, which it's doing across the street, that it's going to do anything different.
Okay.
Mary, who's asking for the annexation?
Sherry Potter
Sherry?
is. Yes, she's here. Would you
Okay.
like to speak with her?
Ms. Potter, are y'all gonna change anything on the property, or just requesting those services and be annexed in? Okay, obviously, there's a benefit for them to be annexed into the city.
Well, it's beneficial for tax purposes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think they're well aware of the sewer issue, because in Ward 1, 40.6%
Yeah.
of my ward is on septic.
That's
So
right.
we
can't
have very
let
little
extended-
sewer in Ward 1.
It's
I
never
mean,
been
Yeah,
put on city service.
no.
Water, but not.
Is there any other discussion? I remind the board that this is an ordinance. If it was to pass tonight, it would have to be read 3 times. What would be the desire of the board to have the ordinance read on its first reading?
First reading, abbreviated form.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to have the ordinance read on its first reading in abbreviated form. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollabish,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor. Yes. Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance accepting the annexation of certain territory to the city of Texarkana, Arkansas, approving the schedule of services to be extended to said area, assigning such to wards and zoning districts and for other purposes.
So the ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the board's desire to have it read on its second reading?
Second reading.
Motion and a second to have it read in abbreviated
abbreviated form,
form
please.
on its second reading. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollabish,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor. Yes. Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance accepting the annexation of certain territory to the city of Texarkana, Arkansas, approving the schedule of services to be extended to said area, assigning such to wards and zoning districts and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the board's desire to have it on its third and final reading tonight?
Third reading, abbreviated form. Second.
So we have a motion and a second to have it read on its third and final reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollabush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor. Yes. Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance accepting the annexation of certain territory to the city of Texarkana, Arkansas, approving the scheduled services to be extended to said area, assigning such to wards and zoning districts and for other purposes.
So the ordinance has been read on its third and final reading tonight. What would be the desire of the board to adopt?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to adopt. Is there any other discussion? Is there anyone here in the audience that wishes to speak for or against this ordinance? Hearing none, could you call the roll, please?
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Hollabush,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor. Yes. Brown,
Yes, and the ordinance passes and is adopted. Moving right along to item number 7, to adopt an ordinance to rezone a tract of land located at 4400 Old Blackmon Ferry Road from R1 Rural Residential to A1 Mixed Use Rural Zoning in order to operate a rural business. Ms. Beck.
This tract of land is on Old Blackman Ferry Road. The legal description is lot number 2 of Giles amended replat. So it's been platted, and it's occupied by the owners, and they've been operating a small home business there. I say home business, it's not a home occupation, but it's a rural product kind of business, which is what we recently approved for the new zoning, the A1, the limited mixed-use zoning. And so the applicants are here, they're single-family housing across the street from them and to the north and south, or the west, I think the east is vacant anyway. They, it's all R1 rural residential around them. And the A1 zone is designed to work with the R1 residential, because you've got large tracts of land with low-density housing. And so the type of business that is allowed in the A1 functions well in this setting and really was designed for it. We notified 8 adjacent property owners. In an area like this, there's a large pieces of land. There's not many property owners normally notified. And we had an inquiry by a neighbor, but he was not opposed, and we haven't had any opposition to it. It was recommended for approval at the same meeting on November 9th. And it's very similar in its services provided, as we saw in the last application. We have water in Old Blackman Ferry Road. It has a septic system. It's located about 375 feet from a fire hydrant. It's very spread out properties. And Dr. Randall Hickerson moved to approve the new zoning, and that was seconded by Ms. Bertha Dunn. And it was 4-0 with no opposition. So the Planning Commission does recommend this new zone, and I'd be glad to answer any other questions that you might have, or any questions.
Does anyone have any questions?
Are the business owners, are they here tonight? Will you all elaborate on the rural business that you're planning on having?
We have artisan goods, homemade goods, woodworking. He does woodwork, and I make leather work and jewelry and stuff, and it's just set to the side of our actual house. And just trying to incorporate our talents and teach our kids how to do something and bring something special and
So it's not a large impact that's gonna really, really disturb the residents around there, because I understand much.
No way it would, but
Yeah.
Well, I can,
very small scale.
well, I can tell you it is a hidden jewel in Texarkana. And, I don't know which one of you are more talented. I know you do some beautiful flower work, so, and I am thankful you are in Ward One, and, it's a blessing to have y'all. I encourage you to go out and look.
Director Harris?
My question already been asked, so I
Okay.
don't need to repeat it.
Thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? Remind you again, this is an ordinance to pass. It would have to be read at, 3 times tonight. What would be the board's desire to have the ordinance read on its first reading?
First reading abbreviated form.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to have it read on its first reading in abbreviated form. Is there any other discussion? Would you call the roll?
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Colabish,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor. Yes. Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K 286 is amended and for other purposes.
The ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the desire to have it read on its second reading tonight?
Second reading in abbreviated form, please.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to have it read on its second reading. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Colabish,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor. Yes. Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K 286 is amended and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its third and final reading?
Third and final reading in abbreviated form, please.
Second.
Motion and a second to have it read on its third and final reading. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Colabish,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor. Yes. Brown,
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K 286 is amended and for other purposes.
So the ordinance has been read on its third and final reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it adopted?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt. Is there any other discussion? Prior to the board voting, is there anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this ordinance? Seeing and hearing none, could you call the roll?
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Colabish,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor. Yes. Brown,
Yes. And the ordinance is adopted. Moving on to our last item on our regular agenda tonight, which is item number 8, which is to adopt an ordinance to rezone property located at 308 Senator Street from the current industrial zone of W1 wholesale and warehousing to R4 medium density residential in order to develop housing. Ms. Beck.
Well, this property is interesting in that it's actually owned by the city. And, it's something that, it's in an area that we would like to see, improve and develop. There are 2 double frontage lots, which, could be developed in a different configuration ideally. Double lots kind of present a problem because one house is built on facing, say, Senator Street, and another is built facing Linden. You have a backyard next to a front yard at times. So anyway, that's just a little idea there. But the W1 zone, as you can see, it's kind of an island here. It's surrounded by R4. This R4 looks a little different because there's floodplain over here. This is the old Boys and Girls Club, and the Farmers Market is a little further to the east. Give you a general idea, and Broad Street is to the south. The W1 zone requires 15,000 square feet for a lot, and these 2 lots together total approximately 13,656 feet using our mapping measurement tools. So it really isn't adequate to develop as W1 if it if it were in a location more suitable for it. But, it is served by water and sewer, and it's about 150 feet from the closest fire hydrant. We notified, I think, 35 adjacent property owners, because we have a more high density in this area than we do in the rural areas. We didn't have any opposition to it. We did have a lot of comments from a couple of neighbors that showed up. One had some just general concerns about the area, and another one was very encouraged by the idea of maybe some more development there. So, the planning commission felt like this was a very positive recommendation, and Boots Thomas moved to adopt the R4 zone. Bertha Dunn seconded it, and it was passed on a 4-0 recommendation for approval
Right.
for your consideration.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Beck?
So I'm saying, guessing density, medium density, like a duplex or something?
It would allow, R4 actually allows all housing types, but the size of that property, it would probably be suitable for duplex or maybe 2 duplexes, depending on the land, how it's configured.
Any other questions?
Y'all got him,
Yes.
y'all got a potential developer? Who plan on developing?
Do you have a potential developer?
That's, the city manager is looking at various
Okay.
things, and I don't know if there's anything for this particular property lined up or not.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I remind you again, this is an ordinance, so to pass, it would need to be read 3 times tonight. Other than that, it would move to the separate agendas. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its first reading?
First reading in abbreviated form, please.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second to have it read on its first reading in abbreviated form. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Olivish,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor. Yes. Brown.
Yes.
And an ordinance amending ordinance number K 286 is amended and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its first reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its second reading?
Second reading abbreviated form?
Okay.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for the second reading. Any discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Olivish,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor. Yes. Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K 286 is amended and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its second reading. What would be the desire of the board to have it read on its third and final reading?
Third and final reading in abbreviated form, please.
Second.
Motion and a second to have it read on its third and final reading. Is there any other discussion? Could you call the roll?
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Olivish,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor. Yes. Brown.
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number K 286 is amended and for other purposes.
Ordinance has been read on its third and final reading. What would be the desire of the board to adopt the ordinance tonight?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
So there's a motion and a second to adopt. Is there any other discussion? Prior to the board voting, is there anyone here that wishes to speak for or against this ordinance? Could you call the roll, please?
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Olivish,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor. Yes. Brown.
Yes, and the ordinance passes. At this time, we'll move into our city manager's report. Jay?
Mayor, board members, thank you for being here this evening. It's a special, wonderful
We've
time.
been up here all afternoon, not just this evening. You've had us up here all day.
Thank you for this afternoon as well, Mayor. So I know we've been here for a little while. This is a special time of the year in our community, and I think our community recognizes that. And so I wanted to start with a thank you to our Main Street program, who put on our parade this weekend, yesterday, okay? And of course, we moved our meeting yesterday to today to avoid the parade, and I think our community enjoyed that, and I enjoyed visiting with the parade as well. I had the opportunity today to go with the Shop with a Cop, with our chief and her officers and a number of our community citizens. Excellent experience, and it shows our compassion in our community. And I know we're seeing that quite a bit, and I know you see it across our city in a lot of places, and thank our citizens for that. I know you've realized that we're in a different hierarchical position tonight. We're following some tradition that I wrote down as a best practice, which is to give the elected people the dais as you are so been chosen by our citizens and our staff folks and functions that work for you in a different location.
I've kind of enjoyed talking down to George. That's kind of made me feel like I'm important.
You are so bad.
I think it's because some of us have gained weight and we've been shoving people this way.
But I hope you'll get used to this pretty soon. Next week, we have Leadership Texarkana Government Day, which the mayor and I'll be presenting at that day as well. And I think we start off with the elected folks there that morning as well, too. So be sure to try to get that in your calendar and attend that. Also, we have the State of the City scheduled for January 26th, and then our joint cities meeting with the Texas side scheduled for February the 1st as well. So we're working on our presentations for that. The other piece I'd like to thank y'all for, Mayor, you and all our board members, as well as Tyranda and our staff for the working through our budget process. I think it's been very interesting and enlightening to all of us, and I've learned a lot during that time period, and hopefully you've gotten all the information you needed as well through that. And we will be presenting that to you for adoption on the 20th as well. So that's all my items tonight, sir.
Any board member wish to address the board? Director Roberts.
I would just, if anyone's not aware, December the 18th, we're having a event at the animal shelter, an adoption event. It's from 10 to 2. If you need a fur baby for a Christmas present, it's a great time to come out. The new shelter hasn't been completed yet, but there will be some tours of the new shelter so you can see what's going on, and just come out, enjoy. If you don't want to adopt a puppy, you can come out and support everybody.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, hearing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Let's have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any other discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Hart,
Yes.
Roberts,
Yes.
Harris,
Yes.
Olivish,
Yes.
Brewer,
Yes.
Minor,
Yes.
Brown.
Yes, we're